here, it shows that King himself said there was a problem within the union. But the corruption series was probably the most outstanding thing that anybody listened to, because they knew then the work we had done on that. And it came from Ford, GM. This is Henry Earp. John Brown. Okay. And this is John. Grand Rapids Press. Okay, you ready, I think?
Thank you to everybody who's come today. I see there's members of the press here as well as some of the workers involved. To give an overview, this is an action on behalf of certain United Auto Workers union members against the international UAW. It doesn't implicate any specific members of the UAW leadership, and it doesn't include any union local halls. There are approximately 170 plaintiffs in this action, all or most of whom were or were once employed by a company called Automotive Component Holdings, or for short, ACH. Many of them as well had been Visteon workers before Visteon's bankruptcy. And for anyone who's not familiar, Visteon is and was a subsidiary of Ford Motor Company. All the workers in this action were working on Ford products, whether these were automobiles or automobile components, but Ford itself is not a party to this suit. Now, this suit has been filed in the Eastern District Federal Court in Detroit. The charges here involved are fraudulent misrepresentation, failure of duty to represent, which is a specific charge that pertains to actions against labor unions, and breach of contract, all on the part of the United Auto Workers. This action began when workers at the Saline, Michigan plant contacted Ms. Patricia Meyer, who runs an advocacy group that has been involved in actions against automakers in the past, has staged protests and picket lines, various. The name of this group is Labor Advocates Workers Solutions, or LAWS, LAWS. This action encompasses union members who have worked and do work at locations throughout the eastern part of the state, including Milan, Michigan, Flat Rock, Michigan, Sheldon Road facility in Detroit, Rawsonville, Saline, which we've mentioned earlier, Maumee, and I think I may be missing some others. And then also that includes workers in Louisville, Kentucky, and in Chicago, Illinois. These workers have suffered lost wages, lost promotions, lost benefits, and they have had the effective, actual inability to file grievances. Even though technically they're allowed to file grievances, for the most part, in large percentage, these grievances were ignored by the employers and by the United Auto Workers. The UAW, we allege, has violated closed shop agreements. The UAW has prevented workers from holding leadership positions at the plant at which they worked. And while these and other UAW workers were told that their status as non-Ford workers would be temporary, in many cases the temporary status never left and continued for several years, and in some cases continues still to this day. ACH workers were pressured by Ford and the UAW in concert to continue working at plants that ACH sold to outside corporations. These outside corporations had different standards. They had not had the same labor standards. ACH workers were required in some points to work 12-hour days, 7 days a week. The corporation, one in particular, was a foreign corporation, foreign meaning overseas, not out of states. A French corporation named Faurecia was requiring ACH workers and all workers at its plants to work 12-hour days, 7 days a week, and was having employment and attendance practices which involved demerits and negative employment actions for seeking medical attention or for taking days off for medical reasons, even if those medical reasons pertain directly to things which happened during the course of their employment. I really respect these workers who've come forward and made a stand against this issue. In many cases, they've risked their employment to go out and speak against the union. If they're going to speak against the union on behalf of things that the union has done for Ford, who's left to stand up for these workers if they stick their necks out like they've done so far? It's taken courage to stand up to this union, and I really am very certain of that, and I really respect that. Some of the more flagrant abuses that the UAW was guilty of, in addition to the violation of the closed shop agreements and the forbidding of ACH workers to hold union management positions within the firm, the UAW acquiesced when Ford and the other corporations made several demands that harmed the interests of the workers. Like, for example, there was the aforementioned unfair labor practices involved. This was at the saline plant, which was sold to Faurecia, and then the violation of the agreement that Ford still owns the land on which the manufacturing plant sits. According to the UAW contract, if Ford owns the land, a Ford UAW union membership agreement should be in place. However, this agreement was not enforced, and a different agreement was signed with Faurecia and was enforced. This agreement with Faurecia was not given to the workers to inspect beforehand, but they were asked to vote on it without having read it. And some of the more outrageous provisions we've heard about already, and you'll hear about today. In the early spring of 2011, out-of-zone postings were put up for the Chicago and Louisville, Kentucky assembly locations. ACH workers, some of them asked the UAW International officials and shop chairman if any in-zone jobs would be offered. These workers were informed that if they wanted to transition to Ford worker status, that they had better accept the out-of-zone postings. 2 weeks after the announcement of the out-of-zone postings, and after ACH workers in some cases had agreed to move to Louisville, Kentucky at their own expense, the in-zone jobs were posted for Michigan manufacturing facilities, such as the group earlier named. Now, these ACH workers had been told that their only option were the out-of-zone postings in Louisville or Chicago, and had accepted, but now were not allowed to bid on the in-zone jobs that would not have required them to relocate. The impending posting of the in-zone jobs, we believe, was known to the UAW International before the workers were pressured to accept out-of-zone postings in Kentucky and Illinois. The UAW misrepresented this situation to the ACH workers. In 2011, the Milan, Michigan facility was sold to Energy Corporation. The ACH workers there were told that they should vote to ratify their contract with Energy, as they would not be allowed the right to transition to Ford facilities. And they were further informed that if they didn't sign with Energy, they would be effectively resigning and therefore could not draw unemployment. In effect, these workers had little choice but to sign with Energy. Non-union temp workers at the Milan, Michigan facility were also included in the voting on the Energy contract. And these temp workers were told by the UAW that if they did not vote yes, they also would have no jobs. And so the Energy contract was ratified by the UAW membership in June of 2011. ACH workers were not given equal status to other Ford workers, and in some cases have not been to this day. And they have had many negative consequences, including they've been targeted for dismissal by the corporation, whether that be Ford, Energy, Faurecia, ACH, or any other current employer that they have. And we have here today a few members of the UAW, a few members of the suit who have wanted to come and say a few words. Is that correct?
We do.
Okay.
I'm Pat Meyer, and I was asked by you workers to take the case in or to bring it. We're happy that Jonathan said yes. I'm going to call on each of you to say what you think. We're going to start with Candy Escott.
Okay,
Could you move the microphone down, please?
I can do it, don't worry.
Yeah, okay,
Just go ahead.
sorry. Okay.
I signed on with the lawsuit because I feel that I was not represented with the UAW. I was misrepresented. I was lied to. We weren't told the correct information to make the decision on who we wanted to work for. When we were asked why we were signing things, they lied to us about why we signed things, and we also found out later, like our profit sharing from Celine, we worked 6 months there training the Phoenicia people, because we were told if we took the layoff or didn't accept to work there until we were placed to a Ford plant, we couldn't get unemployment, which was a lie. And so I stayed there, and I was short on 2 paychecks, the last 2 paychecks. The union and nobody else would answer their phones when I was trying to get it corrected. There's no representation, no union to go to. They just tell you there's nothing, just be glad you have a job. And they took my seniority when I went to Flat Rock. They took 5.5 years of my seniority, and they gave me a made-up 1-year date. They did that with everybody, and even though I have a year seniority, I am not able to exercise my seniority at the Flat Rock plant.
Okay, Candy, you were a saline member when.
Yes.
Next is Ed Holmes. He's going to tell you his story about what happened to him, how long he was in the plant, and why he made his decision. Ed?
I've been at...
Could you hold up
Sure.
just a second, let's put the camera in place so we can finish.
Do you want that microphone?
Yeah, I want to get the microphone closer to Scott.
I've been at the Celine facility since 2007. Temporary employee most of that time. Was told in the beginning that I was going to be the next generation Ford. When it came down to of all the deception that had taken place from the union about being told what we were gonna get from working for Celine, I'm still there today. But it still all drops back to the fact that we were all deceived on what was really going to happen, that we were going to be next Ford generation. So I don't know if that's...
Thank you, Ed. The next is Linda Bouchard. She's right here.
Hi, my name is Linda Bouchard. I
Could you
started
can you
in
wait
Celine
just a
plant.
second, please? Let's get the camera in
Oh,
place.
thank you.
That's nothing to do with it.
Thank you.
I didn't want to talk.
She thinks she's gonna lose her job. Okay.
Okay. Hi, my name's Linda Bouchard, and I started in Celine plant in '07. And in orientation, we was told that we was the next generation Ford, and they lied to us then. They're still lying to us. Then we got to go to a Ford plant. They took 5.5 years of seniority away from us, which shouldn't be. And we lost our vacations. We lost our all of our benefits. No dental, no vision for 3 years. And it's like we're starting all over again. And no pay raises, no nothing. And I just think it's totally wrong what they're doing. The UAW just really stabbed us all in the back.
Linda, could you explain why do you feel so strongly about the case about what the UAW did to you? Did you feel you were represented at any time, and did you ask for your money back for your dues in the case?
Who would you go to? They're all like a clique. You don't know who to trust. You tell one of them one thing, then somebody else tells you something different just to satisfy what you want, what you're saying at the moment. But once you walk away, you know, they don't get back with you or anything. Nothing.
Did you
Nothing
sign
at all.
did you sign the NLR petition when it first started in the case? And did you tell the NLRB that you wanted all your union dues back? Did you?
Oh yes, I
write
want
that?
I want my
Yes.
union dues back. Absolutely.
And what's
They
the
did us
most
wrong.
important thing that you wanted back in this lawsuit?
I want my seniority back.
Thank you. Okay,
5.5 years.
Thank you, Linda. The next speaker is Janet Storm. She's right here.
When I transferred over to the Milan plant, we lost our seniority for going over to that plant. We had to use the starting seniority date of that plant, and they have enforced that upon us, even as the new company took over. And yet the people that I worked with that were Ford at the Saline plant, when they went to their facilities, they got to keep their seniority. And while we were there at the Milan plant, the union had done nothing but lie to us. They would not let us have the agreement books, the Constitution. If we had any questions, we were to go to them. They have not represented us. They have not helped us become forward. They have done everything to keep us down. And when it came to voting in the new company, they told us that we had to go with this new company or we would be fired. People that did not vote for the company, that wanted to stay with ACH, they were considered fired. They were let go. They were unable to collect unemployment. There are others that may have been able to go do other things. Some did flow back over to Saline, some did not. But it was basically you stay with Energy or you're done. And so then that's where we get to stay, and we're still fighting with the union to this day.
Janet, the question is, all the time you worked for Ford, are you considered even in the Ford system any longer?
That I do not know.
What, do you work for Ford anymore?
No.
Why did you lose that?
When we voted in the new contract, we had to give that up. Yet for some reason, it seems like the company still has our Ford Global ID.
Correct.
And that they have used it. Yet we are not considered in the Ford system.
Okay, so virtually you were taken off the Ford list supposedly.
Correct.
And who do you blame for that?
My UAW.
Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Alicia. Okay.
My name is Elisha Kranen. I started in Milan in 2008. I'm here today to seek justice. There's no justifiable reason that we weren't chosen to move rather than being forced to go with a new company. And I just think that that's really unfair.
Who owned the company that you work for now? Who brought that company in?
It's a French company.
And who brought the
Energy.
French company in? Who was it owned? Who were they in dealership or in Ford?
ACH.
Which
ACH
was
and
Ford.
Visteon. We started in 08, we were Visteon, then we changed to ACH, and then we changed to Energy. So.
Okay, that explains it. If you gentlemen have any questions here.
Yeah,
go
can you
ahead.
kind of explain kind of the history of this? How did this all come about with the UAW? Actually, it sounds like